right, moving on to our next session. Cyber NYC, a plan to turn New York into a capital of cybersecurity, presented by Wilson Lin. Wilson builds tech ecosystems supporting entrepreneurs and investors for the greater good of the city. At NYCDC, he heads Cyber NYC, a $100 million suite of strategic investments to grow the city's cybersecurity workforce, help companies drive innovation in business development, and build networks and community spaces. Wilson was previously a director at Tideline, an impact investing consulting firm. Prior to Tideline, Wilson was an experienced manager in the strategy and operations practice at Deloitte Consulting, advising the world's largest financial service firms. He also worked at UBS on the strategy team and began his career with IBM. He has a BA from the University of Pennsylvania and an MBA from the Ross School of Business, University of Michigan. He is also currently a venture fellow at Chestnut Street Ventures, a VC fund. Please help me welcome Wilson Lin.
Good morning. My name is Wilson Lin. I work for the New York City Economic Development Corporation. So in short, I'm probably the least technical talk for today. Apologies if someone has already done this, but we'd love to get a sense of who's in the room. Who are the folks who are from, let's say, large corporates? Venture capital firms? Entrepreneurs, folks in entrepreneurs or at startups? All right. Government? Nonprofits? Academic institutions? Perfect. So there's a little bit of something for everyone here. And what I want to do is just talk to you a little bit about this initiative called Cyber NYC. As was introduced, it is a $100 million initiative by the City of New York in collaboration with the private sector to help establish New York City as a leading cyber city. One last question, who's from New York City? Got it, thanks. So, there are two main reasons why we wanted to do this. One is we know that there's a major talent shortage. If any of you are hiring, if any of you are looking to build teams, you all feel this very acutely. This is not just a New York City issue, this is a global issue and only looks to become more pronounced over the next several years. So we want to address the talent issue. The second issue that we want to address is on the innovation side. We all know how quickly this space moves, and there's no point in time in which we will be fully secure. We know that's not going to happen, and so we need to continually innovate. And we want to make sure that New York City is also at the forefront of that innovation. So why New York City? I think for a lot of folks, when they think about cybersecurity, New York City is not one of the first cities that they think of. What are some of the cities that you think of when you hear cybersecurity? If I could just get people to shout out places. Austin, DC, Maryland, Vegas, where all the cool conferences are. MIT as a city, okay. No, I got you, yes, Boston. And what else did you say? Tel Aviv. Nigeria. Nigeria, okay. On the offense side? Okay, where else? San Francisco. Okay, right, the Bay Area. So New York City doesn't just roll off the tongue when it comes to cybersecurity. There are a lot of other things that we know that we are the best at, where we have essentially our competitive advantage, as it were, as a city. And so a big part of that is our strong commercial demand. We have more Fortune 500 companies here than any other city in the United States. We have a very large and diverse workforce. We have more people with bachelor's degrees in New York City than I think LA, Boston, Philadelphia, and some other large city combined. We have great academic institutions, and we have an increasingly thriving startup ecosystem, especially over the past 10 years. One of the unintended consequences of the financial crisis is that there were a lot of people who found themselves with tremendous talent, but without a job. And as more capital started to infuse New York City, there were more startups, more entrepreneurship, more venture capital companies that started to emerge within the city. So now we have this tremendous set of advantages, and we need to figure out what to do with it. So these are the primary goals for this initiative. One is we want to be leading on the innovation front. So we believe that we have the ingredients, the tools, the capacity to build out the next billion dollar company and the next dozen $500 million, $100 million exits. We also want to establish New York City as an international sort of gateway to the United States. As you said, many people think about Boston. Many people think about Silicon Valley as their gateway to North America or to the US. We believe that it should be New York City for any number of reasons. One, it's already very much an international city. And then there are some very practical elements. So for example, if you think about the accessibility from companies from London or from Israel, it's certainly much closer. And there's also established sort of communities, overseas communities that are here. And the third thing is we want to establish the workforce of the future. We are coming from an economic development perspective, and we want to make sure that the city is creating the jobs of the future for all New Yorkers. And this is something that we take very personally. It's very important to us as a city. What we don't want to do is just to have great jobs, but only import people from Stanford or MIT or wherever else to come take jobs here. We want people who grew up in the Bronx or deep in Queens or wherever to be able to have opportunities to have good jobs here. And I'll speak for myself. Both of my parents are immigrants. They came from overseas, and they both studied computer science, got their master's degrees, and both eventually worked at Bell Labs. When you're a kid, your parents never really impress you, so I thought that was just normal. But my parents do remind me about how brilliant they are, and I have come to find out that coding abilities are not genetic, as far as I can tell. So these are the aims for Cyber NYC. And so I'll quickly just take you through some of the component parts. The reason why I asked where folks are from is because as we developed this program, we wanted to make sure that we don't do this in isolation. This isn't a bunch of economic development folks writing white papers, dreaming up what would create jobs. We wanted to make sure that we heard from folks in industry, folks in academia, venture firms, startups, so that we ensure that we create something more holistic. Because for any ecosystem to work, it has to work together. And our role in all this is to just make sure we bring people together, that people are open and honest about their needs, and find ways to collaborate. So I'll quickly take you through some of these programs. So one is what we're calling the Global Cyber Center. This is going to be a physical space in Chelsea. It's going to look like that. And the idea is we wanted a place where if you are a super cyber nerd or just someone who is interested in cyber, there's a place to go to attend events, like this one, for example. There'll be co-working space. There'll be space for corp dev, for venture firms. There'll be over 150 events a year. And that's anything from pitch nights to panels to events that are already taking place. So for example, there's already events talking about the intersection of smart cities and cyber, women in cyber, startup pitch events. So it's going to be a highly activated space for all things cyber. We're working with a corporate innovation team called SOSA, originally headquartered in Israel, and they are building out this 8-story space. The next program is called Hub.NYC by JVP. So JVP, some of you may know, is a venture capital firm called Jerusalem Venture Partners. And they have quite a track record in investing and helping scaling and growing cybersecurity companies. So this is about accelerating growth, what we are calling growth stage startups or growth stage companies. So typically have already been funded, post-revenue, have some traction with enterprise customers, and it's about going from X to 10X. And we are deliberately seeking companies that are actually not from New York City. So we want to serve New York City companies, but we also want to open it up to non-New York City-based companies that are looking to establish some presence in the US. So this is a growth stage accelerator with tight collaboration with C-suite folks at the major Fortune 500 companies, at large enterprises. So what we want this to be is a very direct pathway to enterprise engagement. This is different from a prototypical early stage accelerator that's more about finding product market fit, finding the first customer, or finding the pitch to get initial funding. This is later stage. It's all about growth, getting more traction, and getting to a B round of funding. There are also, people love taking up space in New York City. They're also establishing a space. This is going to be in Soho. I've gotten a sneak peek. It's looking amazing. We also want to do work at the very early stages of innovation, right? So when people think about New York City, we don't have the cachet of, say, a Stanford or MIT. I think we're getting better at that with the establishment of Cornell Tech. But we also want to be known for early stage sort of innovation and company formation. So we are partnering with Columbia University, their tech transfer office, called Columbia Technology Ventures. What we're doing is we're creating a network of tech transfer offices. So some of you may know, a lot of research gets done, and then a lot of research also doesn't see the commercial light of day, right? So what we want to do is make sure that anything that has the potential to be turned into a startup or to have a commercial life, we make sure that we capitalize on that. So this program is about taking IP that's being developed, and perhaps some folks like yourself in this room who have management experience or entrepreneurship experience, bring those together and start companies. Moonshot Challenge, I'll be really quick about this. Small businesses are very much at the heart of the New York City economy. They actually employ more people in New York City than large businesses. And they actually hire more people at a faster rate than large corporations. And so it's important for us, as someone who cares about the entire New York City economy, to ensure that our small businesses are also well protected. You ask the average small business owner, and they are not thinking about cybersecurity unless they have to, unless something has happened or they know someone or something has happened. We want to make sure that our small businesses are also secure. And so we've launched what we call the Moonshot Challenge. It's sort of like an X Prize for securing small businesses. So we've had, I think, close 150 to 200 submissions from, I think, close to 10 different countries around the world to find a suite of solutions to help protect our small businesses. Winners will also get a $1 million investment from Jerusalem Venture Partners. These are all the cities around the world that participated. And then lastly, I just want to talk briefly about the talent piece. We have tremendous academic institutions here in the city. As quickly as cyber is moving, we need to make sure that the things that are taught are infused with real life situations, cases, and that it's not just something that's taught in a textbook and not something that gets stale quickly. So our approach to this is to bring as many industry professionals into the classroom. So we want people to help create curricula. We want people to actually be adjunct professors and be in the classroom teaching and mentoring students. We want practitioners to provide sort of cases and experiences so that as students learn, they're not learning something that is just theory, but something that someone in the real world has already experienced. We're also looking at alternative methods to the talent pipeline. Who here is hiring cyber talent in general? Okay, lots of folks. And it's super easy, right? They're just like really available and it's fast. I mean, it's not at all. So we need to find additional pathways for students to get good cyber jobs. One of the things we heard is sometimes there's too many barriers. There's requirements for a bachelor's degree, there's requirements for X degree or X number of years of experience, and sometimes that can be appropriate. But a lot of times what matters is, can you actually just do the work? And it doesn't really matter whether you have a bachelor's degree. It might not even really matter where you went to school. So we want to create an alternative pathway, working with Full Stack, one of the top coding boot camps in the city, top coding boot camps in the world, really, and establishing this other alternative pathway to get talent. A lot of corporates are starting to get engaged to be hiring partners. What that means is they get early access to the talent. They can help shape the curriculum. And they can basically have an opportunity to mentor the students who are coming out of this boot camp. So there are a number of ways to get engaged. I don't want to make this an extended commercial, but the reality is for something of this scale to succeed, which it will, it's about making sure that people are engaged and that we, as the city, continue to convene people and hear from the best of you. So in addition to spaces and opportunities like this, we also have an advisory board of people from Goldman, Google, JP Morgan, Teammate, a whole bunch of leading folks in the cyber community. But we found that people also really love giving back. And yes, they want their startup to succeed. They want their corporate to succeed. They want to advance. But we also found that this community is, they feel like they can give back while also benefiting themselves, which is exactly what we want. We want to see people engage and find value out of these programs. So in the number of opportunities, I'm happy to talk more about it, and I will take questions for the next 3 minutes and 1 second.
Are there any questions? All right, moving
Perfect.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wilson.